paid less than men for the same work costs them and their families thousands of dollars every year. Imagine what a working mom could do with the money she is owed. That extra money, she could use it to rent or even buy a better home for her kids and herself. Those groceries she could buy, that car payment she could make. Think about what it means for her hopes for a secure retirement, or if a relative gets sick. So many women today are working harder than ever to lift themselves and their families up into the middle class. And a lot are working harder than ever to stay in the middle class. And too many are trying to do that without a living wage, without flexibility and predictability at work, without access to quality, affordable child care, which is a key economic issue, not just a family issue, without paid family leave. A few weeks ago, when we were in the hospital waiting for Charlotte to make her grand entrance, one of the nurses came up to me and thanked me for fighting for paid leave and told me how she sees families every day who struggle to balance work and parenthood. In fact, she does it herself. Even while she's taking care of someone else's precious baby, her thoughts are often with her own. Who's watching her kid? What if her child gets sick? How's she going to be in two places at once? You know, and I can remember what it was like being a young mother. I had so many advantages and support, but even then I felt squeezed. I remember one time, shortly after Chelsea was born, I was due in court for a trial. She woke up sick. You know how that is. Barely 2 years old, running a fever, throwing up. My husband was out of town. The normal babysitter called in sick. I had no relatives nearby. The neighbors weren't home. Frantically, I called a trusted friend who came to my rescue that day. But still, you know how I felt. I felt terrible. I felt terrible that I had to leave my sick child at all. And I called home at every break, and I rushed back to the house as soon as I could. And when I opened the door, I saw my friend reading to Chelsea, who was thankfully feeling better. And for the first time that day, my own head and stomach stopped aching. But think about it. For so many moms and dads, that ache is with them every single day. Our most vulnerable families have the least support. That's not how it's supposed to be in America. This is the country that if you work hard, you can make it. And each generation is supposed to have it a little better than the one before. That's why I'm here today, because I want you to know how much I believe in electing Andrew Cuomo and Kathy Hochul to fight for every woman and every family to have a fair shot. And here's what they will never do. They will never waffle on a woman's right to make her own reproductive health care. They will never shame and judge a woman for decisions that are complex and deeply personal. Decisions that belong to a woman, her family, her faith, and her doctor. Not with her boss or with a politician. They will never block legislation to prevent harassment and intimidation at reproductive health care clinics. You know what they will not do. And now it's time to really get to work in these last days before this election. Because here's what I'm worried about in New York. I've been all over the country trying to get people to come out and vote because so many of the races with our really great Democratic candidates are too close to call. They're within the margin of error. They're really on the razor's edge. Here, we know that if people turn out, Andrew and Kathy are going to be elected.
Right.
And so, what I'm asking you is to go from this rally to make sure you do everything you can to convince people to turn out and vote. Because a lot of people right now are not thinking about turning out. They've tuned out. They think, okay, the election's over. We know who's going to be the next governor. You can't take anything for granted in an election. I know that from firsthand experience. So, I think the message of today is we have a great agenda. We have great candidates. We just have to make sure voters are going to come out and validate that. And part of what you can do, because nobody here wants to wake up the day after the election and wish you could have done more. Part of what you're going to have to do is to literally talk to everybody you know and don't take no for an answer. A lot of your family members, your friends, your co-workers, your neighbors, people are not in the best frame of mind for voting this year. That's true across the country. So part of the challenge is for you to convince them. And you look at the agenda, you look at the values of the Democrats in this state that pioneered everything from secure retirement to the kind of health care that we're now providing. You just look at our history, you look how Andrew fits into that history, and you tell everybody who's doubting or refusing to vote that if they don't, they lose any right to complain after the election is over. You're not going to listen to them, you're not going to take them seriously, because they have to ratify what has been accomplished and validate what will be. Now, for me, it's pretty simple. This is about voting for yourselves. It's about voting for your future. It's about voting for your hopes. It's about voting for your dreams. And to me, the women's equality agenda is a big piece of those dreams. We started the March for Women's Equality in this state in Seneca Falls. We had the prime movers for women's suffrage who worked tirelessly until it happened. We started the move toward women's reproductive rights in this state. We have so much to be proud of as to what has been accomplished in New York. And it's not just our leaders, as visionary and effective as they have been. It's the people of New York who understood that part of what we have to do is keep widening the circle of opportunity, moving toward that more perfect union, embracing every person's potential. And that's why, for me, our state motto is perfect, Excelsior, ever upward. Our governor represents that. He has worked tirelessly. He has given it his all to make a difference in Albany, no small feat. With him at the helm, I'm convinced New York will move ever upward, bigger, bolder, and better than ever. So it's a great pleasure to introduce you to my friend and the governor of the state of New York, Andrew Cuomo.
How much do we miss having Hillary Clinton in New York? Boy, just listening to her speak, just seeing her brings back so many memories. All her great service as senator of this state. How proud were we to have Hillary Clinton as senator of New York?